Everybody, welcome back. Today, we are chatting with Kirsten Kemp about how we can help young performance athletes build authentic. Authentic is the key word, confidence. So,
Yes.
Melissa, tell us about Kirsten, and we're going to get started because there's a lot to unpack here today.
Yes, absolutely. Kirsten Kemp is a freelance professional ballet dancer and high performance mindset coach for ballet dancers, specializing in helping dancers release the mental and emotional blocks that hold them back from peak performance and well-being. As a dancer, Kirsten has trained and performed with the Houston Ballet, has a BFA in ballet from the University of Utah, danced professionally with Oklahoma City Ballet, and is the creator of The Confident Dancer on YouTube and Instagram, which is an online community of over 20,000 dancers from around the world. In addition to working with the top pre-professional and professional dancers from all over the world, Kirsten is a master ballet instructor and international professional speaker, having spoken at the top institutions such as Miami City Ballet School, Estonia National Ballet, Texas Ballet Theater School, and the University of Utah, the University of Oklahoma, Point Park University, and many, many more. First of all, welcome. Thank you. I think this is your first time.
Yay! Yes, thank you guys for having me.
We love our repeat guests, but we love our first time guests as well. So we're happy to have you here. Since your first time, how did you get started with The Confident Dancer?
Oh, it is a long story, but I'll do the bird's eye view. It really started with my twin sister years and years and years ago when we were like 15 or 16 saying, we should start a YouTube channel. And I was like, no, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. But wow. She twisted my arm and we did it. And we just started talking about our journey and how we were navigating being aspiring professional ballet dancers, because YouTube was very early in those days. It was new. And so we were just like sharing what we were learning along the way. And so that started my online presence. And I never stopped it. I just kept going. And over time, throughout my professional journey and pre-professional training, I started to shift from wanting to share just tips and advice to help out fellow dancers in their journey to actually becoming really passionate about the role of the mind in allowing us to perform and feel our best. And that comes just from a lot of personal experiences I had, from the highs and lows of feeling really confident and seeing really dramatic results in how fast I was improving, how well I was performing, to then having mental health challenges and really intense performance anxiety, and seeing how that just, like, I could have the best training in the world, but it was almost worth nothing to me because I couldn't apply it. So that led me to an interest in performance psychology and helping dancers in this way of building confidence and having the mental tools to perform and feel their best. So I transitioned into really speaking about that very openly on my social media channels and turning it into my work as a coach and a speaker. And I think that's the shortest explanation I've ever given.
No,
so
I love that.
Someone put on the back for that.
I feel like all the best ideas are born in some sort of really personal situation. Casey, I always joke that Apollo was born on the beach. Like, we were on vacation, like just coincidentally at the same time. And this idea came on the beach while we were just kind of chilling. So I love that story, but I think it's so timely that we're having you on. Mental health is just a huge, it's really gotten a lot of attention, especially in the dance world in the last few years, just in the world in general, but in the dance community, we're really starting to see a shift of people more aware of the role that mental health plays in our performance athletes, and just even kids that are doing things just for the fun of it, recreational activities, right? So I want to talk about confidence, because that is a very big word and implies a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So define confidence as it applies to performance athletes.
Absolutely. So I will start by sharing the very simple definition of confidence that when I learned it, I was like, wow, really, that's all it is. And I'm going to compare and contrast that to the way that we often think about it as performance athletes, which keeps us from embodying it, which the simple definition of confidence is the feeling of being sure about something. And if I contrast that to the way most of us think about what confidence is as performance athletes, confidence is a feeling that comes when you are you feel competent, you're able to do everything that you want to do, or it's the result of an achievement, it's the result of a status that you've desired to reach for a long time. And with that idea of confidence, it's almost like we put confidence, which is just a feeling, behind a wall. And we say, when I get this, then I will feel this. But as it applies to performance athletes, when we shift our understanding of confidence to really come back to how simple it really is, which it's a feeling of being sure about something, we can take that very, very, very simple definition and translate it into a practice and a lifestyle of continuing to focus your mind on whatever it is that you can be sure about. Which, newsflash, and I'll get more into this in our episode together, but you don't have to be 100% sure that you can handle everything, or that you're great, or that you'll be perfect in order to feel confident.
That's the key. And I think we need to unpack that more today, because I think that's the implication. I know in my mind, like, if I'm confident in something, I knew without it, like, I am not wrong. I've got it down, you know what I mean? And that is, I want to learn more about that, and really what the reality is versus the perception today. But before we go there, so we have this really simple, very easy to understand definition of confidence. What is the difference between false confidence and authentic confidence? And how do you tell the difference? Because in the dance community, the whole fake it till you make it thing that's a very real thing. That's a very
real.
We teach kids, and we've grown up with that mentality ourselves. So explain the difference between those two, and how do you tell the difference?
Totally. So I like to really start with a very, very simple, easy to understand and remember breakdown of things, and then expand from there. So I will say the way I would phrase this is the difference between authentic confidence and fake confidence is really the difference between embodying versus projecting and pretending. So a lot of times when I see dancers who have embodied authentic confidence, it actually shows up as being able to step into that vulnerability that it takes to know that you're going to make a mistake and be okay with it, and not let that deeply affect your sense of self, or really rattle you to the point where you start questioning yourself or losing trust in what you're able to do. Real embodied confidence is something that it shows up as groundedness a lot of the time, like the ability to feel stable, secure enough within yourself that you can receive a piece of feedback that's probably harsh and worded inappropriately, and have that ability to differentiate, like, oh, they worded that in a very unhelpful way. I don't need to internalize that. Instead of when I see, and I'll also say it's often embodied confidence that's authentic tends to allow dancers to actually not actually need to be so noticed or validated. They're able to self-validate. Not that external validation is all bad. I know we're going to get into that too. Like, it has its place. It's helpful. It's great. We desire it for a reason. But on the other end of the spectrum, fake confidence, let's say, is something that oftentimes when I see dancers projecting that, they're really trying to present themselves a certain way, but you can tell that them wanting to stand at the front, to be noticed, to be loud, to be validated, it's actually coming from a place of deep insecurity. And so they actually really, really, really need the external validation, the results, other people to see and acknowledge them in order to fill that hole that they feel on the inside. And so that often comes along with the proving mentality as well, which puts a lot of stress and pressure on performers. And it's already hard what we're doing. And I want to say that this is not a character flaw. Like, no shame at all if we're not at that place of embodied confidence. It's a journey for all of us, and it doesn't make us a bad person to not be there yet. And it's a skill that we can continue to learn. So I just want to pre-frame that. Like, if dancers or performance athletes are listening and they're like, well, I don't feel like I have embodied confidence yet. Is it fake? Am I like super insecure? It's okay. It's okay. We're getting there. But yeah, I just wanted to point those two things out.
Yeah, because I can think of kids that I have worked with in the past or have seen on stage or whatever, or with kids that are even friends with my children right now, that I'm like, gosh, they are so confident in themselves, and they are so, I mean, you see them on stage and they just know, and they command that presence very effortlessly. And then there's other kids the same age who would just are nowhere near that. You know, they can't even begin to understand what that person is presenting, right? And so doesn't it have a lot to do with personality traits? Because at first I want to say it's about maturity and experience, but you can really see that in children as well, the embodied confidence versus, you know, fake, right, or false.
You can.
So is it personality traits play a role as well, or what is
That's
it?
a good question. I like to be really fair in saying there are a lot of factors that lead into making confidence something that's easier for some to tap into than others. But I always like to say it's a skill that you can continue to learn. Just like for me, my personality tendency is to really lean towards extroversion. So I could just talk. It's a learned skill for me to be quiet and really listen a lot. So for some dancers, yes, there are personality traits like openness. You know, I like the Big 5 personality test. That one is like one of the most scientifically backed. So like openness, extroversion, that tends to lend itself towards what presents as confidence a lot of times. And also family backgrounds. Like, honestly, if you come from a very difficult family environment, that can really damage a child's sense of self. And so that makes it harder. Versus some don't have that hurdle to get over right away, and their challenges might come later. So I like to be fair in mentioning that. It doesn't mean that one can't be helped to get to that place, but those are some of the more background things that need to be considered. But I will say that in general, confidence is not something that I believe people just have or you don't, you know, because that's kind of the fixed mindset coming in. And I actually used to feel like, oh, maybe that is how it is. Like some dancers just seem to have, and I just kind of felt like I didn't sometimes. And so I'm one of those people where I feel like I've learned it. And now I'm at this place where I've just been working on it for so long where it does feel like it's a part of my personality, but I wouldn't say I just kind of like came out with that. So I like to say it is a learned skill and really lean on that, though I do acknowledge that there are some predispositions or backgrounds that we might come from that might make it easier for some.
For some people.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's very true. I'm sitting here chewing on something in my head, trying to figure out exactly how to say it. So I'm just gonna put it out.
You do it.
Just put it out. I mean, as a teacher, as a choreographer, when I'm working with students, and then when I'm judging, I often say, you know, be more confident. I need to see confidence when you step on the stage. When you're out there, you should be. And it's kind of like they're looking at me like
crickets.
crickets. And you can't teach someone how to be confident. And I feel like when as a teacher, when you're teaching, you're like, okay, do this and do that. That makes you look more confident. Well, that makes me look more confident. I don't know if that makes you look more confident. Like, is it hard?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is oftentimes we're teaching them what we think confidence looks like. They can portray that on stage, but that's not authentic. And Ken, is that even like a relatable? How do you teach that to students? Is it not focusing so much on performance and focusing on the inside work and the inside training? And what is your advice for that?
Yes. Well, first, I do like to just say that as teachers, it can feel like we have so many jobs to accomplish, like to be the perfect, sometimes emotional support, and to be sensitive to like the student who's clearly having a horrible day, while also trying to teach everybody how to dance really well and be like perfectly sensitive to everybody's needs. And it's just, I just want to say for all of the instructors out there, like, I'm trained in this stuff and this is my work outside of being a teacher, and I still teach dance. And wow, I do resonate with sometimes feeling like my jobs my desires are in conflict of I'm trying to teach everyone how to dance well. And then I really want to teach them also how to be confident, because I do obviously believe it can be taught,
Right.
but I do want to validate for the instructors listening, it's difficult. And so there are things you can do, but I just want to reassure you all, like even just one little thing is so good enough to just like encourage them a little bit. So I would say what we can do to help the students start to embody confidence is, first, I like to go back to that simple definition of it's just something, a feeling we focus on something that we're sure about. So I would tell the students, first, confidence can look different for you. I like to just give them the permission to start to visualize what confidence can look like for them personally, because it does look different for different personality types. For the more introverted types, it can look like being quiet and owning your introversion and feeling like you still belong there, and you can just be that person who doesn't need to be projecting or so outward, but be maybe more of like an attractor of attention. That might be what it looks like for a more introverted type versus someone who really pushes out their energy and projects a lot. It might look different for someone else. In fact, it usually does. And so I like to engage the student's imagination and say, it might look like that for you. For one, it might look like being in the front. For one, might look like being in the back and being very internal, but really drawing that attention in towards yourself, like creating a world where other people want to come into it. Wow. So I like to just give that space to say it can be different, and then direct the students towards shifting their priorities from how it all looks to whatever intention is in line with the class. Maybe an internal feeling, a story one is trying to tell, or even, let's say in the ballet setting, it's often focused on technical improvement. So I might direct the students towards just focusing on one really, really simple intention so that they can feel sure about their ability to just do that. Because oftentimes our focus can be so split in a million directions that we feel like we can't really center on one thing. So that would be a place to start that I feel is hopefully very achievable for dance instructors while so much other stuff is going on.
Right.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
I love the way you said that. Our desire and our jobs are sometimes in conflict with each other.
Seriously.
I'm taking, my kids are going to their first comp next weekend. I'm like, hey, you got to get on stage. I'm going to need some confidence in a week. Like, lady, what's wrong with you? Like, you want me to get this in a week? Like that. And of course I know, and then talking to you, okay, it's probably more of a process, but I'm like, hey, I got 7 days to do this process.
And hey, actually,
7 days.
I actually had an idea come to mind that I was going to share this later as well. You could just encourage the students as well to just own where they're at and just help to normalize where they're at in their process. That goes a really long way in just helping them to tiptoe into a little bit more confidence.
Gosh, that's so hard to do this time of year. That's probably like, I wish I would have known what I know now when I was a director and an educator, but like, my God, like the week before, or even a couple weeks before a competition, like it all just flew out, and I'm like, "What are you doing?"
Like that was me last night. Like,
we've all been there. Like, you've been working on this for 7 months, you know, like
100%.
It's unbelievable, like how much you just forget. And so really sympathize with everybody out here that's getting ready to compete right now.
A lot.
I'm good vibes. All the good juju.
Reenacted actual footage of Melissa last night in class. Thanks, Bree. I appreciate that. That's actual footage, people. There it is. If you're just now joining us, we're talking to Kirsten Kemp about how we can build this authentic confidence, help our students build this authentic confidence in our performance athletes. Please share this episode. Please please subscribe to our YouTube channels at Apollo Performance and at TP Dance Creation to get the full episode. But this is a great time to jump in because I want to get into what we can do to help support. I just talked about how I need to do it in 7 days. I get that I can't do it in 7 days. But what can we do to support our performance athletes in building this authentic confidence, and to the point that you just made about meeting them where they are, like stave off that frustration of, but I'm not confident. What am I supposed to do? But I'm not sure that I can do this. I'm not sure of this thing. How do we support them through that process?
Yes, a couple things. So first, I remember I talked in response to the first question about, or second, what's the difference between authentic and fake confidence? And I talked about the difference between embodying and projecting. So I think as leaders in this situation, as the instructors or directors, that when we embody things like owning where we're at, self-acceptance, grace, confidence in what we know to be true right now, which can look like saying, hey, y'all, even if our performance isn't the best ever, I know that we're going to deliver a beautiful product on that stage. Like, we don't need to be perfect to be beautiful or to have a powerful experience there. See, that's kind of building in that I love that phrase of starting a sentence, even if we don't blank, we can know blank. That kind of really helps to create a culture of that groundedness that is associated with that authentic confidence. Like, it's not about always being totally certain that we're going to achieve a perfect end result. A lot of times, all we really need to be calm and confident is to actually look at the thing we're the most afraid of, like mistakes, not winning, embarrassing ourselves, and saying, even if that happens, what can I be sure about? That this will pass, that I'll have another opportunity, that even if I fall, I can get up. Like, that's the real building blocks, I think, to being able to be confident in a stressful situation like that. Because oftentimes when dancers or instructors, humans in general, when we latch on to this attachment to a perfect end result, that's when self-doubt runs wild. And that's actually our brains doing their job, because our brains are like fact checking us. We're trying to latch on to like this certainty of we're going to do great. And then we all know what it's like to have that voice in the back of the head that's like, but will you? Probably not. Like, that went wrong last time. Are you sure? And that voice of doubt has evidence to back it up.
You know
And
what?
So often, go ahead.
Yeah, you know what is so funny? Like, I'm listening to you say this, and I'm going back to when we filmed for Shark Tank, and I was the most stressed out I have ever been in my whole life. And something happened to me. I swear, I kid you not. Like, right before those doors open, like, I had this eerie calm where it's like, I have done everything I can do. Like, we are going to be okay, no matter what. These are people. And everybody's like, you guys were so confident. I mean, we worked really hard to prepare, but I think also, like, there was just that sense of like, we have done everything that we can. If this doesn't work out, then it's meant to be that way. You know what I mean?
Yes. Exactly. That's the perfect example, because you took responsibility for doing what you could.
Yes.
And you chose to trust that. Trust
and it didn't take the nerves away by any stretch.
Right.
Like, you're still nervous, but it really allowed us to be able to go into the terrifying situation and be able to deliver, right? And know like, we're going to be fine. Like, it's really going to be okay.
Nerves are normal. Self-doubt is normal. And even telling your students that even planting that seed of trust in them. Hey, you guys, I trust you that you know how to dance with nerves. Dance with them. I trust you that I bet you're feeling some doubt right now and jittery. I trust you that you have so much training in you and so much strength in you that you can do this. So we're just laying a foundation.
That is
of trust.
And that is the most terrifying thing about the whole thing is like, I think what we're most afraid of is not knowing. You're afraid of what you don't know, right? So I can't control the outcome on this. I can't control anything about this situation. So it just, it increases everything and multiplies everything by like
Yeah.
10 million times, because what if this, what if that, what if this happens? And so you're just terrified of the unknown. And when you release that and let that go and go, I have no control over this, and that's it. Like, I just go out and do my best. I think that breeds a whole new level of confidence, like you're saying.
You hit exactly on one of the points that I share in my one-on-one and group coaching programs. I teach about the role of embracing uncertainty in confidence, in gaining confidence. They're inextricable. They are. Our relationship with uncertainty directly helps or hinders our ability to tap into confidence.
I believe
so you're right. Like, if we're so like, I need to be certain, of course you're going to go off the rails in self-doubt, because again, your mind is fact checking you. It's like, you can't be sure of that.
Right.
So you have to work with it.
Yeah, it's like, you remember what happened last time?
Yeah.
You can't. Are you serious? Like that? Oh my gosh, that was just such a light bulb moment for me.
For sure.
At least the unknown. You can be confident in what you know, but you can't really be confident in what you don't know, because you don't know it.
But I look at every situation in my life. If I really, in hindsight, go back and look, like the times that I have been most not confident, right? It's been when I have zero control over the outcome, and I am terrified at what I don't know, right? Yeah, that's interesting.
Interesting. Very interesting. Do you think that, because we, in the dance space specifically, but really, I guess any performance athletics thing, the repetition, go to rehearsal, do it over and over again, come back, do these repetitions through, throw this ball, practice this pass, do this, this sprint over and over again. Do you think that rehearsal and confidence are actually truly linked? Like, is that actually helpful? Because you would think it is, because it's like, okay, if I'm sure, if it's the feeling of being sure of something, the more I rehearse it, the more sure I am of it. Or are you?
Well, and because that process, if I think back to the students, is mentally exhausting. If they do that for 5-6 months at a time, they are fried. They're done with it. They're done. But in that situation where their mind, like something malfunctions up here, if something's misfiring, and their body takes over and does the work. So I see the value in it, but I'm interested in your perspective.
Yeah, it depends on a couple of factors. And I will say one thing that I check in with in myself, and I also encourage others to do the same, is ask yourself the question of, for me, what do I need to know in order to go into this feeling sure? And like we just talked about, what do I need to release that I can't know right now? Because I can't know it, let's just go ahead and trust that I don't need to know it right now. But sorry, I skipped for a second. Okay, I'm back. So yeah, in regards to the question about rehearsals, so there is a link between competence and confidence. Yes, I do want to acknowledge and validate that. However,
I feel a giant butt coming along.
But it's here. But it is not everything, and it's not even, in my opinion, the backbone of confidence. Yes, it does. That is why it tends to come with time and experience for people. Yes, but that's really when we're working just from the default mode and not being very proactive. So a lot of times when dancers see competence as their ticket to confidence, they actually judge and critique themselves so much and feel, and they do not give themselves permission or feel like they are allowed to say, I'm good enough now to believe that I can be confident. And so I will say the link between rehearsal and confidence, or just, let's say, experience in general, is that yes, it can provide valuable evidence to your mind that you can be sure that you can handle what's being asked of you. That is valuable. However, there can also be a negative relationship between rehearsal or experience and confidence, which is that if you are, let's say, over rehearsing, to use the rehearsal example, you can often build up higher expectations in your mind of how good it needs to be because you've rehearsed so much. And then those high expectations can feel like pressure that you put on yourself. And then again, you get to that high bar, then the self-doubt kicks in because it's like, oh, well, can I live up to it? And so it can become an expectation trap for us. And that's kind of dangerous. Now, on an experience note, like the more experience we get, that doesn't necessarily even mean the more confidence we build, because it's all about what we do with the negative evidence that we all experience. Like when we mess up, when we have a rehearsal or performance that goes worse than we thought we would ever experience, or we just bomb an audition and you're like, I didn't think it could be that bad. We all experience that at some point. Like I have made some of the most humiliating mistakes. I never thought I would go that low in my life. And I made it in front of like very important people in the ballet world. And so that was something that at the time I was young and I didn't know a lot of this stuff, hardly any of it. And so I didn't realize I was holding on to that as negative evidence in my mind for years, that you can't trust yourself, Kirsten. You messed up like that. And so I held on to it for years, and it lowered my percent of confidence.
I just grasped what you're saying, that it's negative evidence. Like, that's what makes it, like, when you have such a traumatic situation happen, you hold on to it, and for the rest of your life, it like makes you freeze. In similar moments, it's negative evidence.
It is.
Here.
Yes.
That's brilliant.
And so you could keep practicing that same skill over and over and over and over again and try so hard to get better. But if you haven't released that traumatic experience, a lot of times it is traumatic. Sometimes we can just say it's as simple as a limiting belief. But a lot of times it's tied to an instance that could be little t or big T trauma there.
Oh my God.
That's why I work through that with clients.
Light bulbs. Yeah. Everywhere.
Like block.
Yeah. Wow.
So then when we release the block, then we can start to build that confidence up. But it's one of the first things that needs to happen a lot of times before we can start counting our experience as something that helps us to be confident.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. That makes total sense. I want to talk a little bit, touch really quickly on parents. Let's just talk about parents. Let's just talk about parents. Now that I'm in the middle of competition, Ross, I'm gonna talk about parents. How can they best support building this confidence? Because let me insert my own non-professional opinion in here. Parents can be the absolute biggest killer of confidence.
100%.
For youth. I mean, I can finish a class building up a student. Oh my gosh, you're going to be great. You're going to be awesome. And parent comes in and goes, that's the best you can do, or that's what I'm paying for, or you missed that turn, or and I'm like,
no.
Can you please stop?
Time out.
Exactly. So,
oh my gosh,
what can parents do to help build this authentic confidence in their students? Not what I just said, I'm sure, is the first thing. Don't do that. But what can they do?
Yes. Okay. So there's lots I could say about that. Lots of behaviors that I would just put on the naughty list, 100%, just forever and always. Like naughty list behaviors, starting with creating expectations, even implicit ones for your dancers. Like a lot of parents that I've worked with, when I've had younger clients, I collaborate with the parents. And when I speak to them about like, what do you want for your child? What changes, what issues do you see that they're experiencing? What changes do you want to see for them and in them? A lot of times what I'm hearing is that the parents really are trying so hard to support their dancers. And so that's the intention. And sometimes when that intention comes out in the behaviors of, let me help you do this, and let's make sure you get a private, and da-da-da-da. And, oh, did you think of this? Oh, I saw this. I have some feedback. Is that okay? It comes off as it's an implicit expectation of, I'm doing this because I really, really want you to be your best. And so the child might pick up on that subconsciously as, I need to do my best for you to be happy with me.
Mm-hmm.
the parent might have never verbalized that once in their whole lives. But that's what comes off from that behavior, versus you can still support your dancer and like set up the private lessons for them and make sure that they have everything that they need, but coming at it from that tone of, what can I do to support you? Would you like an extra lesson? You know, I think you're really doing well and I'm proud of the growth that I've seen in you. How can I help you to feel your best? Instead of kind of being agenda driven of, I want you to do your best, so we're going to do all this and make sure that you're good. So that vibe of pressure that comes on a lot of times through these very well-intentioned behaviors. So,
but some parents don't. I mean, let's just be real. I mean, we're putting it all out there. Some parents don't have the wherewithal to even know or receive that they're doing anything wrong, right? Like in that, like that nothing that they're saying is even bad. Like, what did I do? I'm just supporting them, right? So sometimes, I mean, is it okay for a coach to look at a parent and go, look, like it's so hard with parents because there's that line of like, they are the parent, but they're literally impacting your work as a coach. So is it okay for a coach to look at a parent and say, look, like, all you should be focusing on right now is how you can best support this child, be their cheerleader, right? Like I used to say that at the meetings, like they need you to be their fan and I'll be the bad guy and the rest of it, right? But like, you know, support them. Is it okay for a coach to say that to a parent?
I would imagine, yes. I mean, just personally, I'm always a fan of more communication versus less. And I would just say encourage the parents to keep asking their dancer, what do you need? What are your goals? How can I help you? Versus kind of assuming, oh, you want to do your best, I'm going to help you.
Right. Yeah. How can I help you? Instead of just saying, here's how you're going to do it. For sure. I'm going to go off on a tangent here because I have a question about, I guess, where our culture is shifting with performance athletes, specifically youth performance athletes. Yeah, the positive reinforcement only, the positive vibes only. You know,
so glad you brought that up.
You know,
it's a really big issue. It is a big issue,
and you wouldn't think that being positive is a big issue, but it that's not necessarily the issue. The issue is it's very hard to instill confidence or say, you know, I'm really proud of your growth and I'm really happy when, you know, you're not growing. You're not really putting forth the effort. Like when you have a student or an athlete who is not necessarily doing their best, or you know that there's more potential there, how do you address that and still help them build this authentic confidence?
As an instructor?
Yes. Or coach.
Okay. Yes. Okay. I'm super glad you brought that up, Melissa, because I was thinking, I actually wanted to talk about the whole positive reinforcement thing too, because our culture is really leaning towards more is better. You always need to make everyone feel comfortable and okay and good and special and all that stuff. And I think there are a lot of dangers to that because we're creating a baseline for these kids and their expectation of how they should see themselves and what they should and shouldn't accept in themselves. And this baseline of we always need to feel good about ourselves and be happy. And we don't always. Like, part of real confidence is being able to have a very truthful and honest relationship with yourself and to be totally open. And as an adult, that of course looks like being able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, what are some areas in my life where I'm not showing up in integrity? I could really change that. I can show up better in these relationships, or apply myself more to my job, or whatever, you know? And so we need to prepare these kids to be able to say, it's actually really normal to like have an off day and to have very self-critical thoughts. And yes, I think what I'm really getting at is modeling acceptance of the struggle, and how just because you're not like at your peak performance, that doesn't mean I need to tell you it was still good to make you feel okay. I'm going to support you actually in learning how to accept and handle and rise up from the ashes of that situation, to phrase it really dramatically. So how I would address that is I try in my classes when I teach to really let my good jobs be truthful, so that they know that when I say it, I really mean it. And also when I don't see full effort, when I see lower levels of performance, modeling just neutrality around that, like not trying necessarily to coddle or like make sure they're okay, but say, okay, I'm going to give you space to, I trust you to figure that out. Or, all right, yeah, I've seen you do that better before. I ask questions a lot in that situation. What do you need today? You know, so that's a way, just stream of consciousness that I would, I'm thinking would be a great starting point.
Yeah. So we've talked about the coaches and we've talked about the parents, and I want to talk about the individual, you know, how can an individual focus on building this authentic confidence in themselves? And I know you've already kind of talked about, you know, that competence is not the key to authentic confidence, but what else can we start to retrain, and how do we retrain on maintaining that?
Yes, definitely. So I would say it's all about building a mindset that becomes a habit. You know, the mindset just becomes the perspective through which you look at your life and live your life, which is a tendency towards focusing on what you can be sure about, what you do have, what you can do, and what you want. When you're aware of where you want to go, and you then take a moment to ask yourself, okay, what can I do next to move towards that? What resources and potentials do I have, or skills do I already have within me to start walking towards that? And actually placing weight in that, valuing it. Like, what you already have is really powerful. It's an abundance mindset. It's a growth mindset. A lot of people are familiar with these terms. It's also a resourceful mindset, like looking at what you already have and asking yourself, how can I make more out of that? It can become just a way of operating in your life that does build self-respect. It builds self-trust. It builds confidence. And again, it can look like focusing as well, just grounding yourself several times throughout the day on what can I be sure about here? Even in the face of this challenge or this step I'm not sure I can do, what can I be sure about here? That if I give myself time, I can figure it out. That is the trait, that's a mindset that really lends itself to developing authentic confidence. So that is a great place to start. And it does allow space for you to not be perfect and not be there yet. It just gives you enough of that grounding to be able to move towards the direction that you want without feeling like you already have to be there to be worth something.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. For our friends that are just joining us, my name is Bree Zabrowski with Apollo, chatting with my fabulous co-host and friend, Melissa McDaniel Grisham. This is Beyond the Steps. We're talking today with Kirsten Kemp about how we can help our performance athletes build authentic confidence. And that is a really important part of this authentic confidence. We just talked about how coaches and parents and individuals can help to build that confidence, individuals in themselves and parents and coaches for their performance athletes. I want to move now to just share with us, what is the research and the evidence and what happens to a performance athlete when they can really grasp a performance with authentic confidence? Do we see a change in that overall performance?
100%, because again, confidence isn't all about being 100% certain that you're going to be great, you're going to be perfect, you're going to ace it, you're going to get the par, you're going to do the thing. It actually really shows up as a deep ingrained sense of groundedness and safety to be able to take risks, to be able to go out there and participate in the vulnerability that it is to perform in a one-time scenario where you're on that stage, you're competing. That's a vulnerable situation. And so when dancers actually work on their authentic confidence, I see so many results that come from that. It's self-trust. So they start taking more risks. So they improve faster. They get more opportunities because they feel safe within themselves enough to go out there and put themselves on a limb, because they also know that even if they raise their hand to demonstrate a step and they don't do it very well, they know that they're going to be able to move forward from that. They know it's not a deep reflection on their character, their future, and a lot of times when we're not confident, when we are in that place of insecurity, those actions like performing, putting yourself out there, taking a risk, it is way too risky for your sense of self-esteem because it's just not grounded. It's fragile. And, we all have those days. That's totally normal. But I just mean, as a general trend, when we have more days than not where we are embodying that authentic confidence, you can take risks. It actually changes a dancer's body language. It literally allows you to perform better because what's going on in our mind is intricately connected to what's going on in the body and vice versa. We know it's becoming more common knowledge how connected the two are. And when you are accessing a state of confidence, it not only affects your mindset, like the quality of your thoughts and what actions you're willing to take, and your responses to everything that's going on, it also affects your physiology. And every time I go out to speak about confidence to groups of dancers, I often use this exercise where I ask them to take a moment to just, wherever they're sitting, just sit like a dancer who is confident. They all do the exact same thing. It's like,
they
do the same thing. Yes, totally. Everyone knows what it is. And it's not just like puffed up. They always embody this calmness and this ease, this groundedness. We all know that we dance better when we're grounded, we're in connected to the floor, we're expansive, we're fluid enough to be able to be agile in our movements. It actually makes your dancing better versus when dancers are in more connected to their insecurities, let's say, or they're in a fear-based mindset, they're having a stress response, or they're feeling anxious as a result of self-doubt. Mm-hmm. We all know what that does to your body language. It's tension. It's eyes go down. That affects your performance.
Yeah, I feel like we have so many light bulb moments when we do this show, and I feel like we've done so many mental health episodes, and every single one resonates with me, honestly. But I'm sitting here listening, and I'm like, this is the key to everything. Like all of the things are tools, but like building this authentic confidence really encapsulates a growth mindset. All the healthy tools you can do to support that. We've talked about journaling and meditation and breath work, and not a heavy focus on over rehearsing and adding more like mindset classes into the schedule over technique classes. Like all those things have come up, but this is the top of the mountain. Like if we fix this, all of it gets easier. And really, like that's what I'm hearing you say, is that it affects it. This is the pinnacle, is this authentic confidence.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and the dancers I work with, we focus on dance, and then they were like, I'm so different in my friendships, and my family sees a difference in me, and I'm applying for better colleges than I ever thought I could get into, and I never would have done that before. It affects your life path. Mm-hmm. So really, it's huge.
I mean, that is unbelievable, because you, as a judge, you sit there, and I mean, as a teacher too, you watch somebody come out on stage.
Yes.
And immediately this is going to be good. Like they haven't done anything.
Yes.
Yes. Really, you've done nothing. They said your number, you came out, and I'm like, ooh.
Who's that?
Why? But it's that calm, that feeling, that I don't want to say confidence, because you can't use the word, describe the word. I get that, but it's you admit that idea that I'm sure of what I am doing, and no matter what was it? Even if we don't, we can feel like that. You feel that immediately upon them, and that also explains to me why you have I'm gonna say me because we call ourselves out here like, yeah, I'm pushing my kids. We're practicing so many hours a week. We're doing this and we're doing that. And I hear about other studios and other places, and they're like, oh yeah, I hadn't practiced my solo in 3 weeks. I don't know.
Real. You're like, what?
What? You haven't? Oh yeah.
Yeah, my favorite is like we started in the summer and like rehearsed like crazy for 6-7 months, and then the people that are like, yeah, we just started it like in the new year. You're going, huh?
Yeah, the choreographer came in 2 weeks ago. Yeah, they did it on Saturday. We really haven't seen it. We got the costume yesterday, and I'm like, but how did you?
That's the lifestyle I've been living since I've learned this stuff. It has utterly changed my life. I had no idea how much I was overworking from a place of just trying to calm down my self-doubt. Like, it wasn't even about me like needing better technique. It was my mindset was so doubtful that I was probably spending so much effort just trying to appease my self-doubt. And when my mindset changed, I'm literally performing tonight. We've been rehearsing for 2 weeks. The performance I'm a part of is in collaboration with another company, and the other company they had a lot more rehearsal than us. And there are some little ways in like cleaning the piece that it shows, yes, but it's been so cool to have opportunities myself now, as like I just dance on a freelance basis, really for the joy of it. And it's so amazing to see how practicing my own tools that I teach, it just allows for so much freedom to trust myself to just go out and do something. And then when I do have that mindset of trust, what do you know? I deliver. Whereas like Kirsten 10 years ago, oh my gosh, I'd be like, I need 3 more months. I'm not stepping out on that stage. Heck no. And then I would probably still be so nervous and tense that I would mess it up.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's very freeing.
It's like, I'm gonna take this back to my people, and we're gonna.
I'm gonna take it back for myself. I think of like 3 situations this past week alone where this would have come in real handy. Like, shoot.
Oh my God. So Kirsten, I'm gonna ask this real quick. The negative spiral, it happens. Something happens, and then that negative reinforcement, or that what we were talking about earlier, like the evidence of negative evidence is the term we were using earlier. You're getting it and you keep getting it, and then the more you get it, you get more negative evidence, and you get in this spiral. How do we intervene in the spiral? How do we stop the spiral?
The first step, I think every practitioner, coach, therapist would say this. Personal development junkie even would say awareness. Having labels and awareness of the pattern that's happening is the first step. So noticing that you are starting to go in that spiral, and the thoughts are and the feelings are building on each other. That's great to stop and notice, because when we don't stop to notice, we're so in the thoughts and feelings that each one is very believable, and it feels like the truth when it's really just our felt truth. So that's step number 1, just noticing, okay, I'm starting to go in that direction. And then pause and ask yourself, okay, how did this start? What do I need? It could have come from a perspective. It could have come from a lack of sleep. You might need a break. It's not always what the thoughts are telling you that is the problem. A lot of times the thoughts will be like, what the problem is? You're a terrible dancer and you're not going anywhere in life and no one likes you and you're going to totally screw this up. But when we pause to say, okay, I'm going to examine the thoughts, but then ask myself about the layer deeper. What do I need? What's coming up for me right now? What are the emotions that are present? And then you can start to actually just intuitively within ourselves move towards a solution for the real problem, not the problem that your thoughts are telling you is the problem. Because no, it's probably not that your whole life needs an overhaul and you're going nowhere and you're a piece of trash. Like sometimes we can really get there. Like I've been there. So that's a great step. And normalizing that those days do happen. And I love to give this particular reframe. and I learned this in my training when I got certified in neuro-linguistic programming, there are just some foundational beliefs that as practitioners, we're taught that help us to help ourselves and other people. And one of them is that these challenges come up for resolution. So if you keep noticing the same insecurities keep coming up and really causing some challenges for you, instead of wishing them away, shoving them down, and even experiencing shame for having them, the first thing I always do with dancers is say, there's a reason that is there. There's also a reason it wants to come up now. And it's wanting to be resolved and released. And that's just such a kind approach. You know, I find that it really removes so much resistance and shame from the experience. So then we can look at it and say, okay, is it a belief or perspective that needs to change? Is there a negative piece of evidence from my past, a difficult experience that keeps getting triggered and keeps coming up, that your mind is trying to remind you of to protect you from making it happen again? Then we can actually really start to look at and address, like I said, the real challenge that needs resolving. So I love that perspective of this is coming up for me, for my good. It wants to be resolved. So yeah, that's a place to start. I could just keep going forever and ever, but I'd say that's a good starting point.
That's a solid explanation. Thank you. Again, for those just joining, this full episode and all of our episodes are going to be available on YouTube. You can go for a Turning Point Dance Creations and Apollo Performance, as well as our Facebook pages. So make sure you check out all of our episodes. You can even register and get them emailed to you. We've been talking with Kirsten Kemp about how we help our performance athletes, I should say, build authentic confidence. And it is now homework time. If you haven't watched this full episode, go back and do it. This is a good one. And it's something we all need reminders about right now. But Kirsten, we like to assign our guests homework every week. Every episode, we give one thing from our guests that our audience can do between now and next week's episode to see immediate improvement in this one area. It can be a big piece of homework, small piece of homework, whatever you want.
Yes. I'm so into homework. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to give one of my favorite exercises away. It's making an already list. So this basically what it is you write a list of all the things you can think of that you already are, you already have, and you already can do. And keep building on that list. I recommend, a lot of people have smartphones. Put it as a note in your phone, keep adding to it. And this is really similar to another exercise. Dancers can, or anyone can use this if they prefer. It's very similar, which is making a list of all the things you can be sure about. That really lends itself to that first step of starting to build confidence. The already list, I think it's just a fun way to spin that, but both are great. Make an already list and then make a list of all the things that you can be sure about. Such a good place to start. And remember, everyone, you can be sure of really, really simple stuff. Like if I fall, I can get up. If it doesn't go my way, I can learn from it and make it work for me. Really, really starting simple like that goes so far. We don't have to be sure that we're superheroes and we can conquer the world and we're the best thing that ever happened to humanity. Like we don't have to go there. It can't be just
it doesn't have to be so bad. Yeah.
No. Yeah, you don't have to be sure of all that stuff to really know your worth and be grounded in that.
And I'm sure it has more tools in their arsenal than they even give themselves credit for. And if you start small in that already list, then those bigger things will come to you a lot easier if you put this into practice. I love that. I'm going to do that in my journal. I'm going to do that this week. I love that.